Did you know that there are secret sins in your life that are sabotaging your success? If you click off now, you're still going to be clueless about what unconscious patterns are blocking your success and what to do about it. 5-year-old William absolutely hated his baby brother. One day when his mother walked into the room, she found William sneering over the crib at Tony, hissing the words at him, "I hate you." Tony suffered through 5 long years of abuse from his big brother. That's when something really weird happened. All of a sudden, at 5 years of age, Tony developed a rare condition of extreme frailty. Even a small tap to the head could injure him or possibly even end his life. From that day forward, William couldn't even look at Tony the wrong way without risking a serious beating from his father. And although that story happened about 40 years ago, and William and Tony are on good terms now, and Tony is fully recovered, there is something really strange that still happens to these two brothers. Tony's family lives in South Africa, and every year when William visits, Tony mysteriously attracts a devastating injury or illness that lands him in the hospital for the entire duration of his brother's visit. And this happens every single time William visits without fail for decades. This is how a sinful unconscious pattern works. And they happen in your life with miraculous predictability until you shine the light of awareness on them. And then, kind of like a vampire in the light, they vanish. So here's how this works. A deep study into psychology will tell you that the unconscious mind attracts the very things that you fear most. And it's interesting because the Bible actually agrees with this. In the book of Job, calamity after calamity happens to Job. And then Job says something that's very telling. He says, "What I feared most has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me." Our unconscious beliefs, or what the Bible would call sin or lies, attracts the very thing that these sins try to avoid. Now, this is because the carnal mind is hostile to God and his way of life. Without God, we try to invent ways to help us get around our problems that aren't godly. Here's how it works in Tony and William's case. Because Tony was hurt as a baby by William over and over again, he began to fear him, and his little mind had to concoct some kind of way to survive the scenario happening to him over and over again. So he developed unconsciously this belief: when my brother is around, I get hurt, in order to protect himself. And because he's afraid of being hurt when William is around, he subconsciously attracts a disaster that fulfills these unconscious beliefs every single time. Whenever William is around, he makes sure subconsciously that he gets hurt. Your subconscious mind has one goal: to try to keep you safe in an unsafe world on its own power. And that's the key, not God's power. In an attempt to save himself from his big brother's bullying, little 5-year-old Tony's mind came up with a way, however unpleasant, to protect himself by becoming mortally fragile, so William couldn't get near him. This unconscious belief came back to bite him later in life, and so many of our unconscious patterns do this until they're healed. Because Tony, as an adult, hasn't had this pattern healed, it still operates beneath the surface of his life, attracting these life-threatening situations at the exact time his brother is in town. The scenario might sound really far-fetched, it kind of is, it's kind of crazy, but if you just take a look at yourself and the people you know, you're gonna see something. You know that person that always seems to attract those same bad relationships over and over again? And you're like, hey, didn't you recognize that? Like, that's the same exact guy you dated before. So that's an unconscious pattern at work. And anytime you see somebody keep doing the same thing that isn't good for them, that they don't really even want to do, but they can't seem to stop, you can be assured that there's an unconscious pattern at work. That's how sin works, whether we try to create it or not. So, is there anything in your life that you just effortlessly attract over and over and over again? And by the way, just because it's unconscious doesn't mean you meant to create it. It doesn't even mean it's your sin necessarily. Some things are done unconsciously. It means we're not aware of them. It's like the mother who yells at her kids even though she wants to stop, but she just can't seem to stop. No method is going to work for long until she allows something greater than her, God's power, to heal and dissolve that unconscious pattern. Our biggest problems in life usually stem from these unconscious sins, whether it's yours or somebody else's. Actually, most unconscious sin is inherited, but that doesn't really get us off the hook because you have the power to heal it inside of you if you only accept it and recognize it and begin using it. And it's actually not your power at all, it's God's. If your mother was always criticizing you as a child, it doesn't necessarily mean she wanted to. It could be out of her own trauma. It usually is because her father criticized her, and his father criticized him, and his father criticized him, and so on. That's called generational sin, generational trauma, and it's existed from the beginning of time. And these little lies, they ripple through our entire lives, and they warp the way that we view the world around us and ourselves. They also have the power to influence how our life unfolds, but we're not victims. We can change them through His power. The Bible describes this invisible war that we face every moment of every single day. When Paul, the chief psychologist of the Bible, uncovered the same principles that modern psychology has uncovered, the war between the victim mentality and the creator mentality, the war between the ego and the flesh, or what the Bible would say is the flesh and the spirit. Paul says in Romans 7:15, for what I'm doing, I don't understand. What I want to do, I don't do. And what I hate, that's what I'm doing. But then later in Galatians, he actually gives us a solution. Walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. You can choose to walk in the Spirit, the creator mindset, whatever you want to call it, and overpower the victim, the ego, the unconscious mind, your sinful fleshly nature. Now, if Adam and Eve had chosen to eat of the tree of life, symbolic of walking in the Spirit, we wouldn't be in this predicament. But because we are, and we all would have fallen short and likely made the same choice, Jesus came in the flesh and died to kill the power of this ego, this flesh, over our lives and give us eternal life instead and the power to walk in the Spirit. Now, modern psychology speaks about this. It's called an ego death. The ego death is when you go through this transformation in your life that really, really hurts internally so much that you literally might feel like you're dying, even though you're not. But there's an easier way. Accepting Jesus into your life crucifies that ego, your flesh, every moment of every day you pick up your cross, your sinful nature, and follow Him by walking in the Spirit. So psychology and the Bible agree. By putting to death the ego, aka your flesh, you can be renewed in the body and spirit every moment of every day. And here's how. Jesus reveals the solution in Mark 11:24 when He says, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Ask, believe, receive. Now, why don't we get an answer every time we ask? A lot of the time, this is because our subconscious, aka our sinful nature, tries to block us from receiving the gift that He is handing to us. And if we don't confront our unconscious beliefs and shine the light on our secret sins, we risk them controlling us and taking us in a direction that we don't want to go. It's time to break free. I'm going to reveal to you exactly what to do to break free from this pull. And it's not something you do once, it's something you do continually throughout your life. So let's get into the steps that are going to help you skyrocket your success in life to the next level. The first step is to get right with God. If you do not do that step first, then nothing from here on out that I'm going to tell you is going to work, and it's all just vanity and grasping for the wind. So do that first. If you're willing to get right with your Creator, the one who can take it all away, then invite Him into your heart. Number 2, get clear on what you want to create in your life. What is it that you haven't been able to make happen no matter how hard you've tried? Once you have your answer, ask yourself the next question. Number 3, what do I need to receive? Be quiet and still and listen and let the answer flow through you. What do I need to receive to have this thing I want in my life? What's the answer? And then step number 4, say these simple, powerful words. I receive it. So say it with me right now. I receive it. Sometimes the solution to life's most complicated problems really is simple. You know, we tend as humans to overcomplicate things, just like Naaman in the Bible, who had leprosy and he wanted to be healed. And when the healer came, he got offended because the healer told him to go do something really easy. He said, go jump in a river nearby and you're going to be healed. Naaman got really upset and didn't want to do it, but when he did, it worked. So sometimes we need to accept that healing can actually be a lot more simple than we make it. You know, God's way is actually very simple. It's Jesus. There's one way. Jesus is the way, truth, and life. You don't need to overcomplicate things. The biggest thing is accepting the healing that your Creator is already trying to hand you right now and receiving that blessing in full right here, right now. It's all about asking, believing, and receiving. If you like content like this and you want to support us in our ministry, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Consider a one-time donation or partnering with me monthly, and there are details in that in the description below. Watch the video that's on your screen right now to learn more, and I'll see you next time.